G'day guys, welcome to the first match review, home and away match review on My Blue Heaven for 2021. I'm here to run an eye over our 25-point loss, round one fixture against the Richmond Football Club, the reigning premiers at the MCG on Thursday night. Had a bit of time to think about it. I've only watched the game once, so it's not one of those things I suppose I like to do is watch the game again unless we've won. Took a heap of notes during the game, so I think that's enough. It's hard to say my initial reactions after the game, whether I was sort of gutted by the loss or realistic. If you listen to my preview during the week, I didn't expect us to win. In fact, I had no expectations going in before the game, other than, a few points that I made in regards to having, just some general things like having the fire in the belly and, the leaders standing up and lead by example and all that type of stuff. And I think we did that. So that makes me happy from that point of view. But they're all non-negotiables, I think. But I don't know. I don't feel empty. I'm at the point now with this side that this is our evolution, that Teague is almost sort of in a position where he's going to have to experiment. He's going to have to find that right mix, and maybe it takes a little bit longer. Maybe it takes a little bit longer for us to get where we really want to go. And as a supporter, that's a tough pill to swallow because we want to get there so quickly, and if we don't, then we're very impatient and we seem to want to really be overly critical. Now, so I've got to be careful with that, and I want to be careful with that. I was a little bit, so it came the next day when I was at work and people were saying, opposition supporters were saying to me and Richmond supporters were saying to me, oh, you guys, you were really good. You must be really happy with that performance, blah, 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 blah. You pushed the reigning premiers. And I thought to myself, to me, that's sort of patronising and condescending. And maybe that's still where we're at. And I don't like that stage where we are patronised. I want to get out of that position. And my response to them was, well, no, that was a game. If we were good enough, we would have won for a start. And secondly, okay, this is where really we should be at. I mean, we're 6 to 7 years into a rebuild. We've been gifted high draft picks. We've gone to free agency. We've picked up players. So, I mean, this is where we should be at. Pushing very good sides right to the wire and possibly winning those games. So please sort of don't give us, well, you should be happy. I'm not happy. Okay, I won't be happy until we're playing finals football and winning premierships. But you've got to go through this process. So it's an evolution for me. It's all about the following week and what we're able to learn from the previous week and the opposition we face. Now, I see this game against Collingwood coming up on Thursday and what happened to them last night against the Dogs as more than just going in with the expectations of winning. We need to win that game because they're the teams we should be overtaking at the bottom end of the 8 from last year. So that one's going to really hurt, okay, if we put up a poor showing against Collingwood. The other thing was the scoreline. I heard, the 25 points and, people banging on, particularly our supporters saying the scoreline flattered Richmond. Well, to me, that's really bullshit. We pushed the Eagles last year right to the wire. It was a similar type game. I'll talk about where I think obviously they're very obvious things where we're falling down, but we pushed the Eagles on their home deck last year in a similar type game where really this game, it's played over 4 quarters, but this game was won in the last 15 minutes. That was where it was won. And that's when Richmond controlled the game. That's when they were more composed, they were harder, they were tougher, and their cream shone to the top and all their role players shone. So that is in essence where we're at the moment. And that's a big step for us to take. It's a huge step. So the scoreline didn't flatter us. You can argue that, Paddy Dow kicks that goal. we're an opportunity to win, and we take the big moments. But unfortunately, we're not taking the big moments because we're not ready to take the big moments, because I don't think we've got the right cattle to take the big moments. We just do not have that class factor. And that's going to be a big jump and a big test for us moving forward this season. And maybe, and as I said, maybe it's not going to happen for us this year. We're just going to have to be patient. I think Teague summed it up in his press conference. I did listen to the press conference. I think he said our fans would have seen a group that really cracked in. I think that is right. And I was happy with the grittiness of the performance. We stuck with them. When we thought they might get away, we stuck with them. We hit back. They hit back. So it was back and forward. But I love this. But right now, against the best, we've got to get better. And that is true. So I want to pose the question here. Are we as advanced as we'd like to be in 6 to 7 years of a rebuild? Now, go back to when Richmond were building, and they went through similar problems to us. But when you're developing good young side with really good talent, and we think we have that, but the question mark remains on a lot of our young players. Richmond were doing numbers on the best teams in the competition. They had the wood over Sydney for a very long time when they were building, and Sydney were a very, very good football team. And they beat Hawthorn consistently through Hawthorn's three-peat at premierships, and even before that in 2012 when they won a premiership. They beat Richmond in 2012 by 63 points. They then butted up in 2013 and beat Hawthorn by 41 points. And then in that final year of their three-peat in 2015, Richmond beat them by 18 points. So it can be done, okay? And this I suppose, is the slight worry for me, that you win these games, okay? You win these games when you're in a position when you have the quality, when you have the silk and you have the excitement. And I don't know. I don't know whether we have that. I really don't. So the proof is going to be in the pudding. The proof is going to be in the pudding next week against the Pies to see what we do. I thought from a positive, I love the way we played that, particularly that first quarter in the first half. I thought the way we used the ball by hand, I think Teague and the match committee went in with a plan, and it worked. To use the hands, sometimes we overdid it. I think there was a situation in the first quarter which resulted in a goal with a Paddy Dow handball. And Sam Petreski-Seaton tried to take it with one hand instead of bracing for contact. It was a really poor piece of play by both boys. It was a poor handball, but SBS should have gone harder. It resulted in a goal, but what they were trying to do was to break up that chain of play instead of kicking to the top of the 50 to the 50 arc, to get it in long and deep to the top of the goal square and really put Richmond's defence under pressure, get the ball to the deck, and we're able to manufacture quite a few goals in that first half from doing that. And I thought generally across the board, I don't know if it's the new rule, but generally across the ball, not so much our decision-making, but our ball use was pretty sound. I think I looked at the numbers here, we ran at something like 75% disposal efficiency. We had more of the ball, I think, than Richmond in the end, and I think Richmond ran at 71. So it's not bad. Under pressure, few nerves, I think we used it pretty well. And we were willing, and this is a lot to do with obviously Adam Sard, we were willing when we had transitioned to attack the corridor. So from that point of view, it was okay. And I think we can take some positives about that, and we can tweak it next week, getting a little bit more quality back into the team, particularly with Martin and Williams through the midfield. I suppose my concerns, and I'll get to sort of better players shortly, but my concerns about where we're at, and as I said before, the evolution of this football team and where we're going is right now, I describe them as dig-in players, and it's more than just a role player. I think it's not so much carrying the dig-in players, but we need them. We need them at this stage of our evolution to grow. And I talk about obviously, I love Ed Kerno and I love what he's done for the football club. And he won quite a bit of the ball. I think he had something like 29, 30 disposals. But what does he offer other than just someone who puts his head over the pill? Did he do a run with roll? Did he go to Prestia? Prestia ended up being pretty damaging with 9 clearances. But what does Ed do really good? I just see him as a dig-in player. Is he filling in at the moment because we really need him? We need his grunt and I suppose his leadership. But to me, for us to really move forward as a football club, these type of players need to be replaced. And I'm not just talking about him. I mean, I thought Jack Noons was outstanding. I didn't actually put him in the votes, which I feel pretty guilty about now in reflection. But he's another type of dig-in player. Is he the quality from a consistent point of view that is going to, I suppose, catapult us into finals contention or even, in 2 or 3 years' time, challenging for a grand final? Liam Jones is a dig-in player. He gives his all, 100%. Every week. I love Liam Jones. I love how he's turned his career around, but he's, as much he is courageous and chucks himself around, you just always just heart and mouth stuff with Liam Jones in regards to, I know that deliberate out of bounds rule was a shocker by the umpire, but it wouldn't have happened to anyone else other than Liam Jones. He falls over at critical times. I thought Revolt sort of touched him up and he's just, I don't know. And when he gets the ball, and we want Liam Jones to be good offensively, because he's such a good intercept mark, but we do not want the ball in his hands, particularly when he kicks the ball. And it's real heart-in-your-mouth stuff. And I just feel that as a key defender, one of your real sort of rocks down back is I don't know, he's sort of a contradiction in that he's safe, but he's not safe. And I don't know whether he's going to cut it. So I call them dig-in players and fill-in players at the moment until we can find, I don't know, just more quality in those areas. And the same, you can say the same about Plough. And I reckon, what are we doing? And are we developing new sort of dig-in role players like Setters and Willow? And where do we see them in the next couple of years? Will they develop into more than what they are at the moment? Is going to be interesting. And, Gibbo as well. I mean, I thought Gibbo was really good, 15 disposals and 2 goals. But what do we want from Gibbo? Is that what we want each week, or do we want Gibbo to grow into, as I've mentioned in the past, for us to really be a serious contender? Do we want Gibbo to be that sort of 15 disposals, 2 goals, but the following week 8 disposals and 1 goal or no goals? Or do we want him to catapult himself into someone like a Kane Lambert, who was once again outstanding? Both boys from similar backgrounds, came through the VFL system, overlooked in drafts, similar size, similar attributes. And Kane Lambert has taken that next step. He took that next step, and that's why Richmond became a better football club. So we need Gibbo to be that, and will he become that? So at the moment, they're digging players, they're role players, but is it enough? Is it enough? I think we're crying out for a true intercept defender, or an interesting comment made by Sam Doherty on radio during the week is that since coming back from his knee reconstruction, he's lost that, not so much lost that ability, but that confidence to go for the ball in the air. And if you remember back to his All-Australian year, he was exceptional in the air, particularly that intercept defending. For his height, great overhead, courageous in the air. We have not seen that from him. And I mentioned Jones before, who can do it, but we don't want the ball in his hands. And Jacob Wiedering doesn't do it, a lot of it. As much as Wiedering is a fine defender, lockdown defender, and he can occasionally take a mark, and he uses it quite well, he's not... One of the areas of his game which is not great is his intercept marking. And maybe he's just too concerned on stopping, a Tom Lynch or a Hawkins, that he's not able to do that. Plowman doesn't do it. So we're really... And then when you're under the pump, we conceded 75 inside 50s and we're under the pump, we need to develop an intercept defender, and who can that be? Who can that player be who's courageous, is smart, and is good overhead and can take a mark? And I think, obviously, we're crying out for Caleb Marchbank to come back. He's a glaring omission for me. Brody Kemp's the interesting one to see what he's able to do, whether he could be that player. And there's a bit of a smoky in the VFL at the moment in Luke Parks, who's on the rookie list, who's impressed so far. And I think the club have identified that as an area that it's probably an area of concern. I just think we don't do enough of it. We don't do enough intercept marking to set the ball up in our back half. But as a group, when you're under the pump, I thought we actually held up really well in our back half. 75 inside 50s. Our boys, and I just noticed in that last quarter, I was speaking to my son and having a look at how tired Doc was. Having a look how tired, Jones and Wiedering and Willow and all our defenders, how much they were under the pump in terms of how, I don't know, oppressed they felt. I just thought if we're able to fix up a few areas in that midfield, which I'll talk about now, we can protect that back half a little bit more. I really did feel sorry for them, particularly late in that game. But I think the main point I want to make about this match review is, it's the source of the problem. One of the big sources of the problem. We can talk about our forward half, which we'll get some players back hopefully there, but it's the next layer of midfielders that really concerns me. And where's this going to come from? And at the moment, it's Sam Walsh, who's just an amazing player. He really is. And Patrick Cripps. It really is just them two at the moment. I know Zach Williams didn't play, and I know Jack Martin didn't play, so we'll get that back in. But Williams, to me, is not a proven midfielder yet. It's going to be great to see what he can add to that. And I don't think Jack Martin's proven himself as a midfielder as well. I know he can pinch hit in there. So I don't know. That the proof is in the pudding with Jack Martin as well. But at the moment, this was the difference really. When you're getting smashed 75-41 inside 50s, you're getting smashed out of the middle. It's a concern moving forward. And I don't know, have we addressed it properly? I think we're trying to. So it's Welsh and Cripps and not much else. It really isn't. I've spoken about Curnow, but does he play that true midfield role anymore? And is he polished enough? And is he good enough anymore to be a true midfielder with class who's going to be damaging? So it's not Setters at the moment. They're playing him more as a defensive wingman. It's not Dow yet. I wanted Dow to have a good game. I thought he was serviceable, did some nice things, kicked a goal. Didn't think it was a bad performance. I'm looking forward to see how he goes next week against the Pies. It's definitely not Lockie O'Brien. It's definitely not Cunningham. And it's definitely not Matt Kennedy at the moment either, who was brought across from GWS to be a midfielder. And we're really crying out for some players to really come on in that area. And we must remember that Richmond didn't have no Cochin. And, you look at what they were able to sort of rotate through there. Obviously Martin, who does a lot of his damage forward as centre. Presti is sort of A-grade, such a really good player. And then it's the next level who are, they're just outstanding. Kang Lambert just gets under the guard, kicks goals, 30-odd touches. And the two boys, then they have the cheek to bring Jack Ross on, who came on and had such an impact in the middle of the ground in that last quarter. But the two I want to talk about, and this is where it hurts a little bit for us, and it sort of sums up sort of where we are at right now and what we're searching for. Will it be next year or 2 years' time? Will it be a Brody Kent and Jack Carroll coming through, guys that we've drafted, Philp coming through? Do we have to then now go to that group of players and wait for them? Because right now, this is where we're at, and this is why we can't get that next layer coming through. So the next layer for Richmond, underneath that quality that I just mentioned, Jack Graham, 33 touches, absolutely outstanding. Ball on the inside, and generally uses the pill pretty well, and a tackling machine. And Shy Bolton, 9 clearances, just outstanding. And the way he's developed as a midfielder over the last, say, 18 months to 2 years has been just brilliant. And then what hurts is this. Imagine if we took Jack Graham, and I know this is all hypothetical, and you can't go back, you can't go back and talk about this, but I'm going to, because it hurts, because you think about it, same drafts and where we're at. Imagine if we took Jack Graham. He was picked 47, okay? He was picked 47 instead of Harrison McCready, who's been delisted from us, who we picked up just before Jack Graham. Now, Jack Graham, before he got drafted, he was captain of the South Australian under-18s, and he won the Lark Medal as the best player in the competition. We decided to take Harrison McCready. Okay, Jack Graham has played, what's he played in 3 premierships, or did he miss one with a shoulder injury? But it's just exactly what we need. And it hurts when you see that, the fact that we're crying out for a next layer of midfielders, and we see Jack Graham, who we could have taken in that draft, is quite phenomenal. And then we look at Shy Bolton. He had the 9 clearances and what he's been able to do. And it helps when you're in a good side to understand all that. But in the same draft as Shy Bolton, okay, we took Sam Petreski-Seaton at pick 5. We brought him across as a midfielder. And we took Zach Fisher. We brought him across as a midfielder. We took them 2 boys before the Tigers took Shy Bolton. Now, SPS is a pick number 5 from memory, playing as a dour backman who occasionally can set up a little bit of chain through some nice disposals, not overly aggressive in the back half. And to me, I don't know this experiment where it's worked or what the situation is going on with SPS. I just don't know. But it's fucking frustrating when you see someone like Shy Bolton winning 9 clearances in the middle of the ground and used as a midfielder and being so damaging. And the bloke we bring across with pick number 5 is running around in the back half, being really just not offering a whole of a lot. And the same with Zach Fisher. Now, 20 disposals. I actually thought when Zach went into the game late, he gave us a bit of spark in the middle of the ground. He gave us a bit of speed. He was on his toes. I thought we were very flat-footed there for a period of time, particularly with Cripper. Felt he became very flat-footed in the centre of the ground after half-time. But Fisher's now being groomed as a small forward. Now, you look at the small forward, he's had 20 disposals and not kicked the goal. I think he had 1 shot on goal, Zach Fisher. He's been groomed as a small forward, and he hasn't had a shot on. He's had 1 shot on goal from a set shot. Disappointing, and that hurts. So then, that same draft. So that's where we're at. So where's it going to come from? I don't know, because you can't win games of football against the best in the competition unless you bat deep in that midfield. Now, I guarantee you that if that was the Western Bulldogs in the same position against Richmond, with the depth of midfield they've got, okay, that they probably would have at least pushed them right to the line, okay, if not, okay, upset them and beat the Tigers on Thursday night. So that's where we're at. That is the crux of the situation. Our midfield just doesn't bat deep enough, and I'm fascinated. I am actually fascinated to see what Zach Williams can add to this group moving forward. But I'm not sold on it yet because I haven't seen him play. Really, I know he's played as a midfielder for the GWS Giants, but really I think he's yet to prove himself. And that's going to be interesting to see. Best players, obviously Welsh. I thought as the game wore on, because the workload for Sam Welsh is incredible. He just keeps running and running and running, but I felt his disposal started to waver and his decision-making as he got more tired, just because he's got to carry such a heavy workload for someone so young. And I suppose the only criticism of Sam's game was the fact that he missed that really important goal in the third quarter. He really needed to nail that. It wasn't so much composer, but the sort of banana kick in that situation. I don't know. Maybe 9 out of 10 he kicks those. I'm not quite sure, but he just didn't impact the scoreboard like I'd like him to do, particularly at that time. Thought Cripps was pretty good in the first half, but sort of faded out of it. He was the same. He had that opportunity to kick a goal. I think it was in the third quarter. Similar sort of spot to where Dusty kicked his with the fend off. Dusty put his right through the middle. Cripper kicked, I think, was it out in the full or kicked it behind? We need him to impact the scoreboard. But I thought he was, as a leader, I thought he really stood up. That's what I wanted to see. He was quite aggressive. And I really quite enjoyed his first half. Sard, I thought, was outstanding. Great first up performance by the former Bomber. Just a quick one on Adam Sard. I was following a bit on Twitter during the game, and there is a journo who I won't name. He's an Essendon supporter. And he couldn't fucking help himself. He really couldn't fucking help himself. I think it was 20 minutes into the first quarter. He said, Sard's man has already kicked 2 goals. And I can't even remember who Sard's man. I mean, it's really hard to find out who the small defenders are playing on. Or they just rotate all the time. I mean, they just rotate. So I don't know how he said Sard's man kicked the 2 goals. Maybe Sard's man had kicked a couple on him. But after quarter time, he was outstanding, Adam Sard. So I went back to check this journo's timeline, and not fucking one word about how well Sard played after quarter time. So fuck off, idiot. So great first up game for Adam Sard. Lockie Fogarty in his first outing as well, I thought was really good. Just creative, works hard, nice and composed. You can see, he's come through, a really good sort of football program at the Cats. I like the way he goes about it. I'm actually genuinely excited to see him develop. Can he develop into a midfielder for us? I think further up the ground is where he belongs. I don't think he's a small forward. The fact that he didn't hit the scoreboard at all. So this is an issue. Thought he was good. So when you look at the Tigers, they got 2 goals each out of Rioli, Arts, and the other boy and Castagna. So that's 6 goals out of the 3 small forwards. And we only got the 2 goals out of Gibbo. We got nothing out of Murph, although Murph set up a couple of really nice passages to play with some inside 50s in that first half. Got no goals out of Murph, got no goals out of Fogg, and no goals out of Fisher, but I thought Fogarty was really good in his first outing. And I just thought across the board, Jack Nunes on his wing and where he played as a defensive winger, I thought was outstanding, particularly after half-time, although, he had a really good first quarter as well. And I just thought it was a really good team effort. I wasn't a lot of poor performers. There'd be a few who'd be worried about their positions coming into the game against Collingwood on Thursday. But overall, I thought it was a very sort of, admirable team performance, but nothing to get carried away with because it's all about how we respond this week and what we learn. Does Harry learn, the mistakes he made, the lack of composure, the lack of smarts, not being confident enough to go back and have a shot. So what do we learn? Is going to be the key indicator for me moving forward against the Pies this week. I hope you like this review, guys. Disappointing loss. Fucks your whole weekend up, but that's okay. But looking forward to seeing how our Blue Boys respond against the Collingwood Football Club. I'll be back in a couple of days' time to do a big preview of that game. But for now, it's bye.